How's it going, everyone? Today I want to talk about a couple of things. I want to talk about this other case going on in, I believe, Florida. I'm going to mix that in with the other stuff I want to talk about. But the thing is, I'm going to show you this clip in a minute from I found on Ladle's Law. Steve Ladle, he's a attorney out of Michigan, and I'll leave the link in the description when I show the clip if you're interested in seeing any more of what he's saying about that. But it's where DEA agents are undercover, plainclothes federal agents are going around the airport and basically robbing people, so it's just more of some of the stuff I've been talking about. And as I said in a video I did yesterday, where the sheriff down in California is robbing armored trucks, but because these people are part of the government, and because they are with a badge, they get away with it, and it's not considered robbery. It's not considered armed robbery. They get to do as they please. And it's just more, we got to get a grip on this, what's going on here in America. This is our nation. It's we the people, and it's no longer becoming that. I'll show you this clip, and then we'll get to this other stuff. I'll show you what he has saying if you're interested in finding out more of what he's talking about. There will be a link in the description below. Anyways, here you go.
And English were stopped by the agents on a jet bridge of separate ATL to LAX flights, and their belongings were searched in front of other passengers. Flights from Atlanta to Los Angeles are routinely monitored by officers who call them known drug trafficking routes. So if you've ever flown from Atlanta to Los Angeles or vice versa, you were on a known drug trafficking route. Were you trafficking drugs? Were you? The suit was filed by Andre and English, who not only claimed the searches were neither random nor consensual, they also included Clayton County data that revealed 56% of jet bridge stops involved black passengers, and 68% were passengers of color. The DEA stopped collecting race data 20 years ago. A federal judge dismissed the lawsuit last month, arguing in part the two men should have realized they were free to walk away and not engage with the officers in the jetway. The men are appealing the dismissal. So imagine this for a moment. You're on the walk into the airplane, the jet right there. Okay, there's the door. There's the captain and a steward or stewardess waiting to greet you. You're walking down there. And a guy walks up to you and goes, "Can I see some ID? I want to search your baggage." You're free to walk away. Where are you going to go? You can't go to the side. You can't go to that side. You don't want to go back because you want to get on that plane. And you can't walk faster onto the plane because there's already a slow motion thing to get onto the plane. Where are you going to go? But you're free to walk away. You should have known that. And I understand you're going to say, but Steve, what you mean here is you're free to disengage. So there's two guys with badges saying, "Can we check your stuff?" And you go, "No." Are you going to do that when there's 50 people behind you, knowing full well that everybody's seeing this? And if you say no, they're going to start discussing it with you, i.e. arguing with you. And now you got people behind you mad at you. So this is not a typical situation where somebody just walks up to you randomly and just kind of looks through your stuff. Because generally speaking, someplace else you might do it. The reason they do it in that jetway is specifically because they know that your mindset is such that you're trying to get through there, and anything you're asked, you're likely to consent to keep it moving. They know that's true. So the searches may not be popular, but they are profitable, at least for those conducting them. Clayton County records and federal documents show that drug agents find large amounts of cash on passengers at departing gates. Now, they're not finding a lot of drugs, but they're finding a lot of cash. Now, why would anybody bring cash on vacation? I got to admit, that's a real quandary. Agents have seized millions of dollars, and while travelers aren't arrested, their money is administratively forfeited. Like most civil forfeiture cases, people who have their money taken must prove in court their money isn't connected to drug trafficking or other illegal activity. Seizures like these don't just happen at the airport, they're taking place at airports across the country. Most travelers are unclear of their rights when it comes to airport searches. In order to be admitted entry to the airport's gated areas, of course, you must go through TSA. Everyone knows that. However, the random searches by DEA agents give passengers pause, but it should be noted that they're not mandated. The DEA officially calls it stops and searches at airports cold consent encounters, and passengers are free to end the encounter and walk away if they'd like. But they don't tell you that. They just walk up and go, "Can we search your stuff?" And if you say yes, they go, "Well, you consented."
Now that clip from Leto's Law, from Steve Leto, is just one of many examples of what we have, and this may be the, I would say, the third video I've done now on my channel of where our government and law enforcement is just stealing and robbing from us. It's bad enough they tax us to death, more than they should be allowed to, and but you know, what do we got going on in this country? It's sickening now. People are losing their hard-earned money, and it don't matter how you get, you know, it's your money or your valuables that they're stealing, and they're just getting away with it. It's ungodly as heck, for sure, right? And that's one thing I want to get into on the, you know, where I'm gonna point out a few things in the Bible there. And like I said, you don't have to be Christian and you don't have to agree totally with what I'm saying, but the truth is, the basics of our law, that as we know it, common law, comes from the Bible, of course, right? And the people who are being sworn to uphold and protect our Constitution and to protect our rights and look out for us, well, they're swearing on the Bible. They're putting their hand on the Bible and swearing their oaths to that. And a lot of people, you know, I mean, you can bring out separation of church and state all you want, but I appeal to you that, I mean, for what it actually means, separation of church and state, it should be. But I appeal to you that we should be considering the people we vote for. We should be, you know, we should want them to have some kind of Christian. Well, see, now they're not even anymore necessarily swearing on the Holy Bible. A lot of times they're swearing now on the Bible of their choice. If you want to have good, honest politicians and good, honest police officers and judges and lawyers, the thing is, you should, in my opinion, vex them out by their religion. If you're, you know, everybody subscribes to some kind of religion, one way or another. Even atheists, whether they want to admit it or not, you know, they're answering to some higher power. And my thing is, you know, does it necessarily have to be Christian? No, but should their higher power be a God that preaches them love and equality and a self-awareness of how they treat others? Most definitely. And because we have gotten so far away from that, our government has gone way out of control, and they're sitting here, as you see in these videos, robbing us blind. Now you've seen today in Steve Leto's video of where the federal government, federal agents, you know, DEA agents in plain clothes are roaming around the airport pretending they're looking for drugs, but the truth is, yeah, they'll take those busts if they can get them, but the truth is they want your valuables. They want asset forfeitures, you know, they want to take, and you'll fight through hell and high water to get your money back, to get your property back from them. And then I did the video yesterday of the sheriff over in California that is robbing armored trucks that are going to the marijuana dispensaries or whatever, transporting their money for them, even though it's legal in the state of California. They're doing it under the guise of helping the federal government, and so they get 80% of that money. And as we discussed, they're already up into the millions. And then you take right here in Ohio, in my case, you know, we got the sheriff right here in Defiance County, Ohio, robbing people. I don't know how many times this goes on or how far that arm reaches, but I know they totally robbed me, and they have 100% of my property, any of my valuables and money I had, everything I had. They robbed me blind, literally. You know, I'm sitting here homeless now. You know, it sucks, but that's the truth, and it's because of them. And you know, so a little update on my case is, anyone that's been following along, I started to put a few things together, and there's some things I can't totally talk about yet, but you know, how deep does all this go? When if we break down what happened in my case, I was unlawfully charged without probable, you know, without evidence of a crime happening. I had a deputy sheriff whose mother happens to be a county auditor, right? And, you know, be that as, I'm not trying to say there's anything bad about that, until you realize how these people stick together and they act like scum to the rest of us, like we're beneath them and they can do whatever they want to us. And this Deputy Little charged me with a crime with no proof, even though his own paperwork said I didn't commit the crime, and that there was no evidence of the crime, and I wasn't even believed to be a threat. He threw me in jail. And the next, but this officer was also having online interactions with the person he accused me of being violent with, and there was no violence. And then the very next day, when I got out of jail, they ran me off from my brother's house, threw me back in jail, and had no right to do that. And that was under unlawful protection order that was granted by the court without following due process. And now I'll do another video later on the update on that, but here you have no recourse. You know, not only are they getting way out of hand, robbing us and robbing the American people and robbing innocent people, taking away all their property and valuables and all that, and making up trumped up charges on them to find ways to cash in on them going to jail. Like here in Defiance County, the jail they put me in is called CCNO, Corrections Center in Northwest Ohio, right? And that jail is owned by a group of investors, you know, but if you break down who those investors are, it's the local judges and lawyers around here, and that's the truth. And so they all, you know, how's that not a conflict of interest? They're all cashing in on sending you to jail, and a lot of times it's wrongfully, and when it's not wrong, that's fine, you know. When they're doing their job properly, well then, you know, you'll hear no complaints from me. But you know, that's what we got going on here. But what can you do about it? And the answer is nothing, you know, and that's the whole reason I started my videos, is to show you what you can do about it respectfully without causing a bunch of havoc for these people. But so anyway, so then I was, you know, so I tried to fight back on that, and I got a lawyer, and it turns out my lawyer was, you know, I've said all this in videos before, he was screwing me. He was hand in hand with them and on their side, and helping them come up with charges against me. And the thing is, sorry, you know, I'm having issues with my hair here. I haven't even been able to get a haircut, shave, or nothing else in over a year. And so anyways, then when I decided I was going to fight back on that, and I wasn't happy with how this was going, and that I realized I was being screwed over, I told my lawyer, and I threatened to, you know, to let the city law director, assistant city law director, know what was up, and I was going to sue him if he didn't, for the violations of my rights, him and the sheriff's department. Well, my lawyer relayed that message, and next thing I know, I got fired from my job. And as I've talked before, there's a big club around here, and that they're all members of, and my employer was big time, high up in that club. Then what happened is, as it gone on further, then I got foreclosed on my home, and that, you know, all the stuff I worked hard for, and I worked hard to figure out how to fix this, and how to get it into the court and do it properly. And I studied very hard on it, and and tried to do it as respectfully and honorably as possible. And then next thing I know, now they're foreclosing on me, and and I showed where that was kind of crap too. But my foreclosure around this area is probably the fastest a foreclosure has been closed out, that it's been pulled off. They in no time showed up to, now they got me out of my house and took over all of my property. The sheriff's department robbed me, or it's armed robbery, whether you want to look at it that way or not. That's exactly what it is, because if you would have done the same thing, it would be armed robbery. But the sheriff gets away with it. Well, in the meantime, right before, here's what I'm getting at. So my employer stepped in and fired me to knock me down a level from fighting my case, from fighting against these guys, and having being able to afford a good lawyer to come back at them and go against them. And where the thing is, and I never put it together till here recently, why my foreclosure went down so fast. Why there's people that get foreclosed on and they end up staying in their house a year to 2 years, before they end up totally having to get out. Well, mine, just like that, they're getting me out of my house. And well, I realized what's happened is with my employer, I can't talk a whole lot about some of this stuff because, I don't want to hurt the investigation. But with my employer, when they fired me, I said, well, out of some respect, if it's okay, I would like to leave my tools here until my whole toolbox, it's a big heavy toolbox full of thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in tools that I bought personally all myself with my hard-earned money. And if that's okay, I'd like to leave it here until I can, until I find out where I'm going to work next. That way I can, instead of moving it, oh, that's no problem, they said. Even the owner of the company says, oh, well, that's fine, you can do that. Well, then next thing you know, I signed up, filed for unemployment benefits, and as soon as I did that, they called me and said by the end of the week my toolbox had to be out of their shop. They retaliated against me because I asked for, because I tried to get unemployment, which I deserved. I paid into and all this and that, and I needed that unemployment to help get me by until I could win my case. And the thing is, I'm being an honest person, and what happened to me I didn't deserve, and the charges and all this stuff. And instead of my employer being good enough to step up to the sheriff's department of who they're connected with, instead of them standing up for me and trying to be helpful to me, they chose instead to side with the sheriff's department and go against me. And then they got upset when I tried to file for unemployment, retaliated against me. Well, then I realized about my house and why my foreclosure ended up going so fast. And sometimes you just got to put the pieces together, right? And that's what ended up having to do. Well, in August, August 26th is when they showed up to my house with guns out and told me to get the hell out, and took away all of my property, including all of my tools, my expensive tools that right now I'm being prevented from getting. I got 2 very nice job offers that will pay me very nice, pay me, help me get on my feet. And I can't take those jobs because I don't have my tools. And that's 2 different jobs that's being offered to me right now. And at the time, I'm being prevented from getting those jobs because I need my tools. And they're my tools, right? It's my property. Well, the thing is, or 2 right before they showed up with guns out to my house, I filed a complaint against my company. Somebody I knew gave me some information and said, here's one thing you can do too, because it does sound like your company retaliated against you and was siding with the sheriff's department. So, instead of asking them why they unlawfully, why they showed up on their property to arrest me without proof of a crime, instead of going to bat for me, they chose to go to bat for the for this officer who was having online interactions with the alleged victim, and the other one was related to her, and they chose to go to bat for these crooks, and totally crooks, and that, you know, it's ungodly what they've done to me. Well, the thing is, about a week and a half or so, something like that, I filed this complaint. So this person told me what I could do to file a complaint against my company, the company I worked for. So I did that, and you know, isn't it strange that as soon as I did that, suddenly I'm out of my house faster than anyone that's ever been foreclosed on? It just don't happen that fast, and it did for me. So my point is how far the arm reaches, and who's got your back and who's on your side, and the loyalty. You know, the truth is, one of the jobs that's offered to me was also offered to me once before, when I was still working, and I chose to be loyal to my company, and because they want to claim, oh, they needed me, and I was such a great employee, and they needed me, they didn't want me to quit. I chose to turn the job down, and stick it out with that company. And instead, that company stabbed me in the back. And now, 100%, I'm telling you, so that I cannot, was unable to sue the local officials here who work for this company. They took my property, and they're making sure I cannot better my life. And they're doing it on purpose. And they're retaliating against me. So then now they're retaliating against me even more. I put together that's, you know, it's just awful strange that usually you get a little bit of time to work it out, and most people ended up, you could be foreclosed on and end up really, a lot of times living in your house up to 2 years after being foreclosed on. It happens all the time. And in my case, no, they're there immediately, get me the hell out of there. And of course, this is just corruption. It's corruption within the government and the people that are connected to them. Right here, you know, so right here in Defiance County, you got Sheriff Doug Engel, you know, acting. So I want to say something about, I'm not trying to paint my community out as a really bad community. It's not so ungodly like some of these cases we see happening across this country, but it's a matter of time, because you let a few bad apples in there and they're going to spoil the whole bunch, right? And that's how this works. The corruption is a spreading disease, and right now we got, like, you know, I'm taking it kind of easy on the city police, you know, other than I'm pointing out a few things where they're violating some rights, and but I'm not coming at them all hard like I am on the sheriff's office or even the state police, because overall in this area we've got some pretty decent people. I'm not going to say they're not misled or they're not sometimes in the wrong, but their hearts are overall pretty decent, and they're not purposely trying to ruin lives. And they, you know, a lot of what I want to say about my videos is sometimes if they pay attention to my videos, they could help themselves learn how not to be accidentally ruining lives, because some of these charges you come up with on somebody because you're following what the government's telling you to do, and charging people with crimes that they really shouldn't be getting charged with. And so, you know, but overall, they're people, you know, they're people from a smaller community. They want to call this a city, but it's not that big of a city, right? So we don't have some of the problems that a lot of these places do have. And so my thing is, you know, I'm not trying to say this community is so horrible, but then when you look on the inside that people ain't seeing, you see how bad it really is. And I got some people that are kind of close to me that are, you know, they hear what's going on, they see what's going on, and they know it ain't right that's gone on with me. But then in the meantime, they want to say they support the police and they support the blue line. And my problem is, you can't, when you see what they're doing to, especially when it's happening in your own community. You see what they're doing to me, and you want to overlook it and act like you support them. Well, it's a matter of time before it happens to you. All this dirt that's going on, you know, and I'll post up a little meme I want to talk about that people are sharing to all the good police officers out there. We see you, we support you, we pray that you make it to your families, home to your families. Thank you for your service. This is the other one. Thank you, night shift. Although we rarely see you, we do appreciate you protecting us while we sleep. Now, I want to, you know, I don't know why people don't understand this. You're not sleeping well at night because of the night shift. That's not true. And, you know, and to all the good police officers out there, the thing is, if they're a good police officer, they will stand up against the bad ones. And, you know, it might cost them their job, but so what? And don't tell me, because I practice what I preach, no matter where I'm at. No, in my whole life, everyone knows me. That knows me knows that this, and I was doing this way back in my days in school. When I felt something was unjust, I stood up against it, you know, for the poor person that can't stand up for themselves. And the problem is, we got to yank our support from the Blue Line Gang, and you know, and yeah, they're worse in some areas than they are around here. But if you take a look at my case, how bad is it? You know, and when do they do it to you? And they're stealing you know, they've totally ruined my life. And it's all just so, because they couldn't just say, hey, we're sorry, and you're right, we made a mistake. No, because they wanted to protect Officer Little. And they're protecting this officer that's acting in ungodly ways, right? Then they wanted to protect Troy Essex, the assistant city law director, and the judge. All three of these people violated me. And no one wants to, you know, and then my employer will put their ass on the line to protect these people. And the sheriff himself, who is elected by us, who answers to us, who is sworn under oath, who has put his hand on the Bible and sworn an oath to uphold the law, that right law, okay? And I go to him, and his excuse is, well, you were convicted and you pled guilty, which I did not plead guilty. You were convicted, so there's nothing I can do. Yeah, there is something you can do about it. I got total proof and totally proven my case that I was violated. Your officer violated my rights, and he was acting nefariously, and you can do something about it. But instead, you just come after me. And now since my company went to bat for you and fired me, now he's going to bat for my company and threw me out of my house and stole all of my property. Literally stole all my property. That's why some of these cases, like the one I just showed from Steve Lato and the one I talked about yesterday, is they're hitting home to me, because I'm sitting here with nothing, and they took everything that I worked my whole life for. My old motorcycle, all my tools. That's my lifelong work there, you know. And I can't better myself and get a better job, you know, and can't get a good paying job that's within my area of expertise, because they have the tools I need to do that. And, you know, so who are these people? And then people want to, you know, there's people that are frown on me. And this is one thing I want to talk about. There's, in this community, the truth is, and this shows how dirty these people are. And at the time, I used to be involved in stuff, and I've been connected to some stuff, and I'm not gonna lie. But I mean, there's stuff I won't talk about because of other people's secrets, and because it's not, I'm not a narc or nothing. I'm not gonna throw other people under the bus, but I've been connected to stuff, and for a while, I held a pretty good position within that. And instead of using it for unlawful reasons, instead of breaking the laws, I helped this community stay safer, way better than the cops have, and that's a fact. With the things I was involved in, I helped keep certain drugs out of this town, and that's a fact. You know, I was involved in some stuff, and when a certain group that I was kind of connected to, you know, I had connections in, but they were bad, you know. I mean, they were partaking in some bad stuff and getting some bad stuff brought in. When a bunch of them got locked up and taken out of the area. And at the time, I was faced with a choice, and I could have joined up with that and kept that going, or I instead joined up with something else. And when I did, I moved up the ranks, and I ended up with a certain position that I was all around. I was going to I was at I was around. A lot of times I would go out of town to certain meetings and stuff within the stuff I'm talking about, which some people will call gangs, but I wasn't. We didn't act like gangsters. The group I was with, and I'm not taking full credit. There's other people that were along with me that done these things, but we were around some very bad people, and we were connected to some very bad things, and like I myself used it in a certain way that I kept that bad stuff out of town, out of our community, and I've done things for our community. And the thing is, but this is where you find out where your loyalties are. I was loyal to this community, and I'd done all kinds of things, and partook in and even started some things that was so helpful to this community, and that's a fact. And at the time, I could have went the other way with that, and I could have brought chaos all over these streets. And that's a truth, and that's a fact. And there's people that know me that do know this to be the truth. Instead, they had a lot of rough stuff going on. A lot of times, certain people would show up at the bar, and the bar would clear out because people didn't want to be around them because they knew stuff was going to get rough. When I entered onto the scene, things changed. And I brought some peace to that, and showed these guys that, hey, our beef isn't with these innocent people around here. So let's keep it clean. We're just all here to have a good time. That's all. We're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time, right? And that's the way it was. And I brought that to this community. I'm not the only one, but I was a big part in that. And I kept a lot of the riffraff out of this community, and a lot of the I got a friend that I could tell you, he got a hold of me one time, and he don't know all the details about it, but he's like, hey man, I know you're connected to this, and he's like, hey, I got this because of some female he was talking to at the time, this guy in this biker group that was couple of counties away. I don't know. He happened to like this girl, and they were threatening my friend. But this was a lifelong friend of mine. So I was like, at the time when he got a hold of me, I was pretty wasted, so I couldn't leave nowhere and to go run to his rescue because I didn't have nobody to drive me. And I was like, there was no way I was able to drive at the time. So I was just like, tell me what you got going on, and I'll get a hold of these guys. And he was pretty worried because they were making threats to him. And I ended up calling the guy up, and I'm not saying, there's people that see some of my stuff and they'll comment, who are you, Billy Badass? No, a lot of stuff people don't realize is the badasses you see. It's a lot of perception there, and I went on a lot of perception, and I held things in this county, in this community, and I think I've done a pretty good job about it. And there's people within law enforcement, within the government around here that knew who I was, and knew that me and the people I was with, myself and the people I was with, was keeping things at bay. And that's the truth. And there's groups that wanted to move into this town, into this city, to start setting up shop here. And most of them reached out to me and tried to get me to be the one to do it. And I wouldn't do it, and I refused to do it. Because when I take something on, that's who I am. I go full on, right? So anyway, my buddy got a hold of me and, let me know what was going on. So I was like, you tell me who it is. So I found out who it was, and I called this dude. And I was like, hey, bro, you know who I am, and I'm not, that's my buddy there. That's my lifelong friend, and he's got nothing to do with this stuff that we're involved in. So you're going to need to back off, or it's going to be a problem between you and I. And he didn't want a problem between you and I. Now, am I such a tough guy? No, because the truth is that could have went sour real fast, because the truth is the exact same guy who it was ended up a couple weeks later over in the Findlay area shooting up somebody in another club. And but it didn't go down good for him after that. And the thing is, but that's what I told him. So after that call, he agreed to back off, and then a few days later he showed up here in town and showed up at my club where I was hanging out at, and it was just me, and he showed up there, and this guy was crazy. By all means, he could have shot me to death, and at the time I was there by myself. He could have walked away. Nobody would have realized who it was, but he didn't, because of the perception of who I was. And I told him, I was like, he came to me, offered a few apologies, and I said, hey, you don't even owe me an apology. Just leave my friend alone, because if I find out, then there's going to be problems. And but that's who I was. That's who I am always. When I take something on, I go on full core. In this community, this is how they stab me in the back, because I've done a lot of things for this community, and a lot of things, unsaid things, that kept certain bad drugs out of the area and certain bad people out of the area. There's several groups that wanted to come into this area that I knew was not good, and they tried to come through me and a couple of friends, right, and wanted us to open them up here in town, and I wouldn't do it, and I held it at bay as long as I could, until finally I seen that the loyalty with the group I was with was no longer there, and they were letting themselves get involved in stuff that just wasn't right. So I slowly got my way out of it, and it wasn't, and it wasn't long after I got my way out of it that they ended up raided because of their ignorance. And but the thing is, this community knew who I was, and they even most likely even some of the people that worked for my employer knew that, and that I kept a lot of their job. The people in law enforcement in this community, their job was easier because of myself and a few others like me, and that's the truth, and that's a fact, and it's 100% a fact. And it could have went the other way, because, as I said, I take things on full core. And so when I had a certain, I moved up the ranks with what I was with. I was getting involved in stuff that people that my own brothers in that same group was afraid to mess around with. But I did it for the good of this community, because my point was, we're going to hold strong for our community. And I met, and I've been around some really bad people and some really bad things. But I made an understanding with them that, hey, I won't be messing around in your stuff. You just keep your stuff away from here. Now, I'm not saying now there's some wannabe gangsters that was around this area bringing their drugs in, but a lot of that was technically connected to the man unit. And the man unit's part of the sheriff's department, multi-area narcotics, whatever. And the truth is, they allowed more drugs on the streets than more, and I was preventing more, and at the time, because of who I was and the stuff I was involved in. And that's the truth. And it's not just me, there's a few others. I'm not sitting here trying to act all glorious about myself, but I know a thing or two, because I've been involved in a thing or two, and bad things, and I chose, because the truth is, probably mom's prayers, mom and dad's prayers throughout my life, but whatever. But I chose, there's people, people don't know some of the things I've gotten involved in, and the people that did, they didn't want, some people stepped away from me, because they wanted to judge me based on looks, right, and based on what it looked like I was involved in, when the truth is, I turned things into a good time around here, and within the scope of what I was involved in, and some of the parties we were having turned into good, clean fun, and everybody could wake up the next day knowing they had good, clean, safe fun, right? And that's the truth. And I can get more into that later. But the thing is, this community and this, at the time I'm talking about, when I was involved in that, and maybe that's some of Engel's problem with me, Doug Engel, because he was, at that time, part of the man unit. He was not the sheriff. The sheriff at that time was, sheriff in this county, Defiance County Sheriff, was Dave Westrick. And Doug Engel was, I believe, a part of the man unit. And the thing is, the man unit was acting in more dirty ways than the group I was with. And people assumed, wherever I went, people assumed I was this badass dude that was involved in some bad stuff. I was around a lot of bad stuff, that is true, but I didn't allow it. But I prevented it and held it at bay from coming into this community, because I care about my own community, and that's the truth, okay? And there's certain drugs that I prevented. I made deals with these people that, hey, you know what, I don't want you dealing drugs in my community, and But I'm certainly not a narc or nothing like that. And I'm friends with some of them, you know, and, you know, I've been friends with people that, you know, I can't get involved in a lot of that stuff, but there's people I knew that were dealing in some heavy drugs, and I was like, hey, you don't deal in my town. I don't come to your town with my bullshit. You don't bring your bullshit into my town. I marked my area, and when I say mine, I mean my group's area, and some of the people involved in that group didn't even know how deep it was. But I was like, hey, you know, you keep your stuff out. If there's people here that's addicted to the drugs and they want it, well, they will take the risk by coming to you and getting it and taking the risk and bringing it back themselves. Okay, but otherwise, you're not going to be dealing it in this area. And that was respected. And because, you know, it's all a favor system. And this, like right now I could call in some favors, but you don't do that because you're going to owe a favor. But, you know, but it was, you got my back, I got your back. So, you know, I helped them with the things that I felt all right helping them with, and they helped me. And one of that things was keeping their shit out of my community. And because, you know, what I was doing wasn't for show. I wanted my community to be a good, clean community, having a good time, and where people could sleep at night. A lot of people, like here in Defiance County, the people that share that meme, thank you night shift, we sleep well at night. You weren't sleeping well at night because of the police. You were sleeping well at night because of myself and the people I was running with. And that's the truth. That's why you were sleeping well in your community. And there's people that know that to be the truth. And like I said, that don't make me Billy Badass. It just based on the perception of the things I was doing. You know, there's a lot of times that could have went south for me, but it was God watching out for me because I'd done my best to live a godly life. Just because I was hanging around a lot of stuff don't mean I was partaking in it. And but I met a lot of connections through that, and you know, and I've been, and you know, people want to talk about some of the sick shit that goes on in this world and who's involved in it. And I'm going to tell you, it's a lot of your local politicians and your local people that you're giving all this respect to. You're respecting the sheriff. And I'm not saying this sheriff is in, I'm not going to pinpoint what he's involved in. I'm not trying to say that, but this is what's happening. And people think, oh, they judge people. They see somebody wearing biker gang stuff and they think, you know, I'm saying that out of, you know, however, whatever, right? So the thing is, they're judging these people. Oh, they're the ones involved in this bad things. You know what? Some of the real nasty stuff that goes on, like that's affecting children and stuff, that wasn't going on from the bad types you're judging. That's going on from your local politicians, and that's the truth, because I've been at some very bad parties. I've been at parties where killers have been at, and that's the truth. And real awful people. That you would judge as real awful people, but never once has some of this stuff been offered to me that's going on and that's being trafficked, and that's being done through your politicians and through your group around here that wants to act like they're all honorable, and that's the truth. Okay, so you know, my point is, you know, that's a testament to my character and who I am and and the kind of things I could have done, but prevented. But the respect I get in return from my community is that they're going to steal and rob from me and ruin my life, right? Who are our officers in our government? And who are they answering to? And what is that Bible they're swearing on? And the thing is, if they can swear on that Bible and break that oath, you should pull your respect from them. You know, around here, people's respecting the people in uniform, wearing the badges, and these people don't. And I'm not going to say all of them, you know, for the most part, most of our city police, other than, you know, not understanding I have a real problem with you not understanding your oath to the Constitution, and you're swearing on an oath that you should abide by that oath, and you should consider we all have our rights, and you should not be violating the rights. I have a big problem with that. My whole life is ruined because an oath was allowed to be broken, and those rights were allowed to be violated. Now, would I be sitting here on my videos? I wouldn't be pointing out our local people, but I do, because just what kind of people are they? They're not just violating an oath, and they're not just violating a simple right, as you might call it. They're just dirty people, because as I've said before, let's, you know, Take a look at Matthew chapter 7. We'll start at 14. Because straight is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Okay? And this pertains very much to, my point is, you got all these local politicians and like the sheriff. I'm not going to say claim to know what religion he is, but I'll give you an example. I worked for this certain company, a dealership one time, and they were dirty people. And the way they had the respect of the community, dressed real nice, drove nice vehicles, and they went to the Catholic Church every day. My grandfather, you know, I was born into a Catholic family, and my grandfather once told me, "Oh, you work for," I won't say their name at the moment, but you work for these people? Oh, they're real good people, good Christian people. I see them at church every Sunday at the Catholic Church, right? Yeah, all dressed all nice. It's all for show, because they were dirty, rotten people. They were screwing people over left and right, and they had plenty of skeletons in their closet. And I didn't have the heart to tell my grandpa that. I just, okay, yeah. But the truth is, that's who they were. They weren't real Christian people. And we got these people that go to church, these our local politicians, and I'll give you an example. The company I worked for, they sent us out an email the one year. "Oh, we just want to take this time to reflect on our blessings," and but never once said who blessed them. They never acknowledged that God is the one that allows those blessings. Instead, because they're not telling you who they really, as high up as they were in a certain club I've been calling out, they certainly ain't praising the same God that I am, right? And they're certainly not praising Jesus. And I'm not saying you have to, you as the viewer of my channel, but they're not true good Christian people, right? So, you know, chapter 7, Matthew chapter 7, that we get to 15. "Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are raving wolves." This is who our people are. You got your local sheriff who's violating rights, stealing, making up false accusations against people for the good of the government and for the good of the people he goes out and has his drinks with, their private parties that you don't know about, right? And they are wolves in sheep's clothing. And they are false, right? And, so my main one that I've already talked on once before is, verse 16. "You shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Wherefore, by their fruits you shall know them." Right? And that's my thing. I've already touched on once before. Take a look at your cops that you're giving all the respect to. Your sheriff right here in Defiance County. I don't know why I don't got more traction on this and more people backing me up. But, are they of the tree of liberty, or are their fruits that of the tree of liberty, or are they producing fruits of the tree of tyrants? And that's what we got, the tree of tyrants, right? And this is who we are. This is who our government as a whole has become in this nation. And, people want to say, separation of church and state, or whatever you want to call it. I say be careful on that, because you should be judging voting your people in, not necessarily because they are Christian, but if they're Christian, then they have a conscience that's telling them to do right by God. And that don't mean they're not going to end up doing something wrong, but when they do, in my community, if these people were truly good people and I called them out, they would take a minute and say, well, yeah, I guess God wouldn't like me being that kind of person, right? When I go up to the sheriff on video and say, hey, you guys stole from me and my life's a living hell now because of all this stuff you allowed to happen to me, instead of him smirking and washing his hands with it and thinking it's funny about what happened to me, because he gets the praise and glory of the Hornish family, he gets the praise and glory of the judge, he can do whatever he wants because he's going to be protected. So if you see that man at church, I'm not saying whether he goes to church or not, I'm not for sure on him personally. I know there's a few of them that do, and they're false. And the church should run them out. Either you come to God properly or you get out of here, because you are a false prophet, right? Because we see the fruits you are producing, and you need to do something about who you are, and you need to come properly to God because you are producing bad fruits. This sheriff, Doug Engel, is certainly not a good tree. He's producing bad fruits, right? So, I mean, because, let's take a look at Leviticus chapter 19, and we'll start with verse 11. You shall not steal, neither deal falsely, neither lie to one another. And you shall not swear by my name falsely, neither shall you profane the name of the Lord thy God. Okay, thou shalt not defraud thy neighbor, neither rob him. The wages of him that is hired shall not abide with thee all night until morning. Thou shalt not curse the deaf, nor put a stumbling block before the blind, but shalt fear thy God. I am the Lord. You shall do no unrighteousness in judgment. Thou shalt not respect the person of the poor, nor honor the person of the mighty, but in righteousness shalt thou judge thy neighbor. So who are these people acting against me in this community? And then these cops, right? You shall not rob thy neighbor, and that's what they're doing. And you shall not do unrighteousness in judgment. And they've judged me unrighteously, and they know this. They've broken their oaths, and they know this. These are, and then you take the case in the Steve Lato video I just shown, or the video I talked about yesterday. These cops are stealing and robbing from people. They're not godly people, and because of that, they need to be removed. The tree needs to be hewn down and thrown into the fire, right? So you go over here also, then you go to Ephesians 4, chapter 4, verse 25. Wherefore, putting away lying, speak every man truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. You can disagree all you want, but this is how we should judge our servants and the people who we are paying with our tax dollars based on this. If they're going to put their hand on here and swear an oath, and then they should abide by what's in here. And the truth is, our common law, as known from the Constitution, the common law was based on the foundations of common law, which came from the foundations of this, and that's the truth. And we have a country that is overrun with corruption, and these cops are stealing and robbing from people and taking away everything you worked hard for, and this isn't right. Here we are jumping in to go to war in other nations when we can't even take the plank out of our own eye. The Bible talks about that. Here we are judging everybody else, and we can't even judge our own selves. And my point is that in my own community, how am I going to base that? Well, these people are supposedly, most of them are church goers, and they do it just for the gratification. To get, so you will honor them and have all this respect for them, and they act like they're these godly people, and they're not. And the things they are doing are so disgusting and so against God. The way, I'm taking just my own situation right here in this community. If our community would stick together and say, hey, we thought we were voting in a good, godly man, and everything you are doing is sick and disgusting and against God. You are committing all these crimes, that you are busting people. Worse, you are giving people hard times for doing less crimes than you guys are doing. This is just one more case of what's going on here, and we've got to get a grip on it, or we're all doomed. And we got to weed out these ungodly, unlaw-abiding lawmen, right? And so I mean, look, the last thing I'll touch on is the Ohio oath of office, right? And I can pinpoint right now the judge that was in my case, the sheriff, elected sheriff who took an oath, and the oath they took, they swore on the Bible. They took this Bible, and not this particular one, but they took supposedly a holy Bible, put their hand on it, and swore, and their swore I name, right? So I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Ohio, will administer justice without respect to persons, and will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent upon me as whatever office, right, as sheriff or as judge, according to the best of my ability and understanding. This I do as I shall answer unto God. So you will answer unto what God you're speaking of, I don't know, but you will answer unto God. And that's why I bring this out and start quoting stuff when I'm talking about some of this stuff, because you're going to answer to God. And God tells us what the answers are here. And he says, do not rob, do not steal, do not bear false witness. Okay? And this we have. It ain't me, the person who knows me, that's involved in lots of certain things that I've been involved in. It's not me that's running around robbing, stealing, lying. It's our sheriff, Doug Engel. It's our judge over here. It's the prosecutor or the assistant city law director. These people, I can say that for sure because I know 100% sure that that's what they've done against me. Okay, and what's it like in your community? I talked about what's going on down there now with the video with Steve Lato, what's going on there in Florida. Those DEA agents, what are they doing? I don't know what their oath is, but it's probably something similar, very close to it. The sheriff down there in California that's robbing armored trucks. And these are just 3 cases, okay? My case, that case, and that case, right? There's plenty more cases that we'll get to that this kind of stuff's happening. Who are they? This I do as I shall answer unto God. Well, I'm pointing out to you that you're going 100% against God by the way you're treating me, and that you robbed me and ruined my life, and that the same thing's going on down there in Florida now at the airport. They're robbing people, stealing their hard-earned money, taking what isn't theirs, and in one form or another hurting this person's life. And they're bearing false witness against them when they bring up wrongful charges. And what's going on in California with the video I talked about yesterday, that sheriff, they will answer unto God. And my point is, who's holding them accountable and saying, hey, this guy's right, but it shows you that what God are they answering to, or what God are they bowing down to, is what I'm saying. Because when I go to him respectfully and say, hey, this ain't right, what's happened to me, instead of him getting a guilty conscience, he's not saved, is what I'm saying, because nothing comes onto his conscience. The Spirit don't descend onto him and say, this guy's right, you're doing wrong by him. You're going to answer for it. And anyways, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And I got a few things I'm looking into. A friend sent me something I'm still looking into. Tater, I'll give a shout out to you for that stuff you sent me. I'm still looking into that. I want to do a little bit of a video on that. I got some other stuff planned, but right now there's some things that come up in my cases that that took me away from this. So we'll get back to it anyways. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And thanks for watching. Appreciate it. And I'll talk to you later.